All right, we are live with another Ovadia Heart Health telemedicine live stream, and today I am privileged. I have the honor to be interviewing a guy that you've probably seen on X. He's got over 70,000 followers. He likes to post pictures of steak and eggs, and some even have suggested that he might have invented steak and eggs. I'm going to ask him about that and a whole lot more during our live stream today. Before we get going, I just have to make the lawyers happy and put our medical disclaimer up just in case there's any misunderstanding. None of the information that's provided today is medical advice, and you're advised to seek the care of a qualified doctor or medical professional when undertaking any changes to nutrition, diet, or fitness, including anything that we talk about today. If you'd like information regarding a medical consult with Ovadia Heart Health, you can email us at team@ifixhearts.com. And with that, we will get on with our conversation. First of all, Zach, I should mention, I mean, beyond the steak and eggs pictures, you are a former Division I football player at USC. One of the most storied football programs in the country, and you've gone on since your college football days to transform your body, losing I think it's like 92 pounds by a heavily low carb, high protein diet, and I'm going to let you talk about that. And maybe and I've listened to a lot of I listened to your podcast with Zack on human performance outliers. Very interesting, and that really got me intrigued. I've been a big fan of you on X for several years now. So tell me a little bit. Your posts are kind of they're entertaining and amusing, but there's also a lot of good stuff behind them. And your personal transformation has been. The pictures speak volumes. I should put. Zach, tell me how this all got started. I mean, you were 200 and how much did you weigh?
293.2 pounds at my top weight.
And I know you've talked about the fact that at some point it occurred to you that it might not be good for your health and your long-term quality of life to keep that kind of weight on. Talk to me a little bit about what went through your mind and what you did to lose 92 pounds after the college.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, as a college football player at USC, I was on the defensive line, defensive tackle, and you need to be as big and strong as possible if you want to be the best at that position. So at that point, I was lifting weights a ton. I'm 6'5", have a pretty good frame, and figured, hey, I can add a lot of weight to this frame to become bigger and stronger. As I got bigger and bigger, I did realize that, hey, yeah, this would not be healthy for me to carry around for, the rest of my life. And I can do it for now when I'm playing football for the functionality of the position. But when my football career ends, I know I'm going to have to cut this weight off if I want to live a long and healthy life. So, being a football player, I was really into lifting, like a lot of football players are, but I was also really into the nutritional side of things. I would work with the team nutritionist, lots of conversations there, doing plenty of research online. Myself, it was a big interest to me. And during the off season, I would slim down a little bit just to feel lighter, healthier, and try and then recompose my body to have more muscle and less fat, yet still be, pretty big. The goal was ultimately to hit 300 pounds, but I couldn't hit it no matter how hard I tried, with all the stadium stairs and sprints, gassers, and just, playing with a bunch of pads on and sweating and burning a bunch of calories. So one day during my research, I came across something called the ketogenic diet. And at first I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. But it intrigued me, I'm reading about steak and eggs and bacon and butter and just easy hacks. Like, I see you're the master of this, where you make a burger with just lettuce. And so I was like, oh, I can do that. It doesn't take much skill. Or I can go to the grocery store, grab a rotisserie chicken. I'm going to try this when my football career is over and see if it helps. Now, I didn't just jump right into it, knowing, trying to make an extreme change can be kind of hard. So the first thing I did was, okay, I'm going to be conscious, eliminate, all impulse buys, not eat refined sugar, refined carbohydrates. If I am eating carbs, it'll be healthier, brown rice in my burrito from Chipotle or quinoa or something. And so I went first, I guess I would say slow carb. Then I went down to low carb where I cut a lot of that out, but was still eating some carbohydrates. And then I downloaded the MyFitnessPal app and started tracking things obsessively, going under around 25 grams of net carbs a day. Might have been 20, might have been 30. We'll average it at 25. And I mean, I initially lost 20 pounds just by, making sure I was only eating longer digesting, more complex carbs. And then when I went to keto, that weight just started to melt off, even past the point of that water weight coming off. And I mean, granted, at 293 pounds to start, and then in the 270s after I went to slow carb, I still had a lot of body fat to lose. So I had a good runway of fat, so to speak, to have that kind of that fat loss. And over the course of about 12 months, I got all the way down to 201 pounds. And I remember thinking, man, I just kind of look like a clothes hanger right now with my clothes on, clothes hanger holding up a shirt. I got to put some weight back on. So I generally, depending on the season, my goals, what I'm trying to do strength and physique wise, range between like 215 and 235 pounds right now. It's a nice like 20-pound range. When you're 6'5" in the low to mid 200s, I guess, you can sustain such a range. But that's where I am now, and I'm feeling pretty healthy eating this way. It's been over a decade. I still love to lift weights on a weekly basis, and fitness and nutrition, I think it tied closely into my success as a football player, being the best I could be, and just a passion that's continued on. And now that I don't play football, it's something, that helps fill the void of having something active to do.
Oh, awesome. I got a couple questions for you. First, before I go there, I just want to show, I pulled a couple pictures off of some articles from USC. Back in your playing days. I mean, you were a big guy, and I did hear you mention somewhere, it might have been on the Zack Bitter podcast, that when you were trying to put on weight, that you sometimes would limit the amount of protein that you would eat, just because when you ate too much protein, you had trouble, like that would prevent you from eating enough. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, saying limit protein, I don't think is the best choice, but it is true, because what I was doing, trying to put on weight, put on muscle, and not having, much of a nutritional background back then, the thought process was, okay, eat a ton of protein, so getting a ton of calories, protein equals muscle growth, I'm going to grow. And when I spoke with the nutritionist and said, hey, I'm having trouble putting on weight, she asks me a question and says, you eat a lot of protein, don't you? I said, yes. And she's saying that protein is very satiating. And if you're just focusing on that protein and it's digesting slower, you're not going to be able to consume more calories to put on this weight you're trying to put on. So put some of the emphasis on carbs, which will allow you to gain some weight faster. And it's kind of funny speaking about, because most people are in the opposite boat, they're trying to lose the weight. So I was doing the reverse. So I started incorporating more carbs into my diet, easy calories, and started gaining a little more weight.
Oh, there seems like an important lesson there. I mean, I know that Division I football teams, are pretty serious about their nutrition. And if a nutritionist is advising you to eat more carbs in order to pack on more pounds and get up to 300 pounds, that should be a lesson for the rest of us who, are probably already eating too many carbs, and that could be a lot of the problem. And you just remind me of, I'm only 6'3", so I'm not as tall as you. And when I was 51, I got up to 278 pounds, with probably a mere fraction of the muscle that you were carrying around. So I must have been carrying around a lot of fat. But I used to think about, oh my God, how am I'm getting close to the weight of an offensive lineman. So anyway, I'm glad that you found steps to get down to a post college football playing weight afterwards. Maybe we could transition a little bit to, I got so many questions I want to ask you. You're well known on X for these pictures that that you post, and you have a very, very nice background. You have an apartment, is it in Manhattan?
It's I won't give the exact location, but you know, pretty close to Midtown, and yeah, I feel very fortunate, very blessed to be able to eat steak and eggs, and you know, have a view that I like.
So some people have even accused you of just posting the same picture over and over. And just to go back, I mean, some of these pictures, I could see where somebody might think it was the same picture if they're not paying attention, but they do seem to be unique, each and every one of them. Do you get a kick out of being known as the guy that you know, posts the great New York City steak and eggs pictures? And tell me, like, you know, what has that done for your popularity, for you know, it makes a great story. I know that you have a career in a different area, which we could talk about a little bit, but but you know, you're known as the guy that posts steak and eggs, and now you're also known as the guy that has transformed from a almost 300 pounder down to unbelievably fit you know, what, 200 to 230 pounders. You got some muscle there. You got a six pack.
Thank you. Yeah. I do like being known as the steak and eggs guy. It's funny. You know, like a lot of my posts, or most of my posts, you know, are just really insight into my day-to-day life, and people have found it entertaining. So I've continued on, and I've had a lot of fun interacting and meeting very, very great people like yourself doing this. And I've actually ended up learning a lot from being able to interact with other people. But yeah, the steak and eggs thing, it's great. I remember I was spending some time in Dubai, and I was pushing my son around in his stroller, and somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, you're the steak and eggs guy." And I thought it was hilarious. And so I stopped, shook his hand, asked his name, you know, got to meet him. He asked if he could take a picture. Of course, I said yes. Um, and yeah, it's been a really fun journey, and you know, I've ended up meeting and interacting with a lot of great people through it. So I'm glad that I decided to start posting those pictures.
I personally really get a kick out of your sense of humor. You have a little bit of a dry sense of sarcasm, which I think I've been accused of a couple of times. And it's kind of funny when you make a post where you're joking around, and then you know, maybe 75% of the people get it, and there's always going to be that 20% or so that that don't really get the sarcasm. You know, I've seen you on Threads. Where you'll say that you're, you know, not bad for a 50-year-old, or that you're about to turn 51. And how old are you actually? You're in your 30s, right? Your early 30s?
Mid 30s.
But you know, it's just funny how not everybody gets the joke. And then you post rather consistently about creatine as well. That's something that you're a big believer in, right?
Yeah, I love creatine. You know, it's an absolute great supplement. There's a lot of myths about it. And I mean, like you said in your disclaimer before the show, you know, we're not doctors here. This isn't medical advice. But if you're as obsessive as, you know, certain subjects as I am and as you are, you know, you do your research and you learn a lot, and you find out that creatine is, you know, the safest, most well-researched supplement out there. You know, you hear it causes hair loss. I have at least one reason I don't think that's true. You hear it's a steroid, which I don't know where that came from, because I mean, it's an absolutely, you know, entirely different compound. And you know, you hear a lot of things about how it may be bad for your kidney because it increases your creatinine levels, but it's looking at things, you know, backwards. And I understand the concern maybe that was first associated with the higher creatinine levels, because if you have, dysfunctioning kidney, you're going to have higher levels. So those higher levels can be indicative of kidney problems. But also supplementing with creatine will raise the levels without necessarily, affecting your kidney. So I tell people, hey, look at it like smoke and fire, for example. If there is, if your house catches on fire, there is going to be smoke. But just because smoke is coming from your house doesn't necessarily mean there's a fire. You could just be barbecuing, a delicious ribeye out back, and there's going to be smoke, but your house isn't on fire. So, got to look at it that way. And I do think a lot of the myths from creatine, this is my own personal theory that I came up with, was when you look at, the 90s and 2000s, or the famous steroid era from the MLB and the NFL. A lot of people were getting injured from taking all these different compounds out there. And, when they got injured, they weren't going to point and say, oh, yeah, it's because I was on anabolics and it caused something. So a lot of them were also taking creatine, which was also a little bit newer and had become popular in the early 90s. And a lot of people are going, oh, yeah, I was taking creatine. So a lot of injuries, I think, muscle-related injuries were and tears and whatnot were being related unfairly to creatine. Then there's a whole bunch of other things I won't get into, but the research shows that it's safe. I like to take 5 grams of it a day, and I've experimented taking it and not taking it, and I've noticed, it having a positive impact on my recovery and on my power and endurance when I'm working out.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of people would be smart to, if they're not already following you, to follow you. I know that you do some coaching, and you have some courses that you have available on your website. I wanted to just take a moment to acknowledge, let's see, we got a bunch of people watching on LinkedIn and on YouTube and on X, of course. We've got a LinkedIn watcher who just asked if you ever made a bid for the NFL. I think I did read somewhere that you played some pro after college of some level. Is that right?
That's correct. And, I did make a bid for the NFL. Playing football, in the NFL was always my dream. Now, I'm not going to go and say, oh, politics, injury, whatever is the reason I didn't make it. I believe that I didn't make it because the competition was so fierce that I wasn't able to rise to the level that I needed to in order to convince, an NFL squad that I was worthy of being on their 53-man roster, although I gave it my best shot. As for playing professionally, I'm not sure how familiar you are with indoor football league, arena football league, but I was playing with teams there, trying to make my way up to the NFL, get some good film. And I remember I was trying out for the Los Angeles Kiss. I'm not sure if they're still around. It was an arena football league team, and the arena league ended up folding. And it was like my second day with them. And I'd had a great first practice and thought, okay, good trajectory here. Second practice, a new guy comes that was just fresh cut from the Dallas Cowboys. And oh my goodness, he was amazing. And I came home after practice to my girlfriend, now wife, and said, yeah, I think I'm going to have to use this bachelor's and master's degree and, go out into corporate America. And she's like, oh, don't be so negative. Like, keep chasing your dream. And I was like, sometimes you got to be real with yourself. And I've taken my career further than I ever thought I would, playing at my dream school and, getting paid to play beyond college. And I've just come to the realization that no matter what I do, I don't think I can rise to this individual's level. And that's who I'm competing with. And he's not even good enough. So I'm going to take this, as a positive that I made it further than I thought I ever would. And I'm going to move on to the next thing and be successful.
Oh, awesome. Let's see. There are a few questions pouring in. We got one from OV on X. Do you ever do a carb cycle? I think I've read a little bit about this. What do you and are you consistently in ketosis? How would you answer that, and any related commentary?
That's a great question, Ovi. Yes, I do carb cycles. So generally, they're going to be every 2 to 3 weeks, but it's not something where I'm setting it on my calendar. I have to go ahead and hit that. There's been times where I've been in constant ketosis for 3 months. There's been times where I've done a carb cycle weekly if I'm running a certain protocol. Now, I know sometimes, carbs can get controversial. Oh, there's no need to carb cycle. But we're all different people. We all live different lifestyles. I've done my research. I've done experimentation. The way that I, live very actively and lift intensely, and having experience doing all different diets and carbs and no carbs and whatnot, I have found it that doing a carb cycle every couple of weeks really restores my muscle and liver glycogen, seems to keep my metabolism on fire, and keeps me going strong and feeling optimal. I understand if I was more sedentary, maybe that wouldn't be for me. I know there's people that don't believe in what I just said, who are more active than me, and that's great. You got to do what works for you. I've tried many different ways, and that's what I found works for me and allows me to be lean and strong year round.
Excellent. Thank you for asking that question, Obi, and great answer, Zach. Let me see. Before the interview started, I got a question from Romulo Alves on X, and he asked about your experience with training frequency versus recovery. I'm not exactly sure specifically what he wants to hear, but I think a lot of people would be interested in just some of your general views, your own personal experiences, and then anything that you want to generalize. Knowing that the rest of us are probably not, Division I football players, but there's probably some key takeaways that you can share with us mere mortals as to how we can apply some of these principles in our lives.
Yeah, so I mean, to speak on frequency and recovery, um, when I was fresh off my football career, wasn't married yet, no kid. I was still trying to train like 4 to 6 times a week because I just love being in the gym. But after doing that for a while, and having my first corporate job and whatnot, I started realizing like I didn't have much free time, and it wouldn't be something that would be too sustainable for my personal career, family life, and social goals, and I had to cut it down. So what I did was I went from, more of an athlete style of high frequency training to only training 3 days a week, but my training became full body, and I do, I call it power building style. I didn't come up with that term, but it's like a mix of powerlifting and bodybuilding. So some, more athletic movements in there as well. So I get a nice combination of both intensity from the power lifts and of volume from some of the ISO lifts. Only lifting 3 days a week allows me to be extremely time efficient and allows me to put a lot of focus into my recovery and more time to recover as well. The older you get, the more you need to focus on recovery. I know there were times in college where I might have, pulled an all-nighter studying for finals or something, and then was still, being obsessive about the gym, went to the gym later on. I don't think that would be a smart thing to do anymore.
It probably wasn't smart to do when you were in college, but you get away with it a lot more, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I mean, geez, as a 60-year-old, I have really learned some lessons about recovery, and it's really important. And I'm sure that you've probably focused more on your sleep, especially that you have one child now.
Yep, I have one child, and I do put more focus on my sleep now. I will say, if I had to point out a weak spot in my, whole fitness journey, whatever you want to call it, it would be sleep. I would like to get more sleep, although I have been doing pretty well. I got over 8 hours last night, but that's not every night.
Let's see. I mentioned before that I am a health coach in the Ovadia Heart Health practice, and we work with people that are interested in improving their metabolic health, and a lot of our patients are people that are looking to make improvements, both in their fitness, body composition, and health. Do you have any thoughts for the sustainability of programs, the things that can make a difference in someone's ability to make a fitness or nutrition program actually stick? Because I think that might be one of the biggest problems that I see and hear. People vow to make these changes and then they find it very difficult sometimes. And I'm just curious if you have any perspective on that.
Yeah, well, I think you have to keep in mind, focus on what you want the most rather than what you want in the moment. I think too many people are looking for a quick fix and then they try some kind of, whatever the hot or shiny new item is out there. You do it quickly, you go back to regular ways, you regain the weight, or it's, some wacky diet or fitness routine that really is unsustainable. So you need to find something that just makes sense, where you're focusing nutrition wise on whole, natural, single ingredient foods. It doesn't have to be keto or it doesn't have to be carnivore. You can be paleo, you can be vegan, vegetarian, whatever you want, where you're eating the these natural whole foods rather than something that's ultra processed. And then find a workout routine that you can find somewhat enjoyable, that you can at least do a couple of times a week, and keep yourself active. And I think that's going to be great for your metabolism. And if you find something where you're eating in a common sense way food that's meant to be eaten by humans, and finding a way to be active as humans are supposed to be active, you're going to start seeing these results. And when the results start pouring in, that's when it really becomes addictive, and you realize it is something that is sustainable, and that you can do for the long term. It just takes a little bit of determination in the beginning to break from old habits that you're not used to. Now, some people will say to me that I must be insane or I must not enjoy what I'm eating because I'm eating the same things over and over again. But the reason I eat the same things over and over again is because after starting to eat the way that I did, I started not only seeing results and becoming more and more determined to continue on that way, but when you eliminate something like sugar, like I did, your whole palate changes, and you start enjoying these same foods over and over again. So I'm not punishing myself. I'm literally eating what I desire to eat, and people don't see that. So if you find your own way, like I said, it can be different than mine. You are going to find this pattern that fits your own style, that is sustainable, that you can be healthy on. I mean, we see these tribal diet wars of people, oh, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way. And it's like, hey, can we all just come together and realize there's multiple ways we can do things that are healthy, and we've all had success here?
Oh, you just hit so many good bullet points there. I mean, sustainability, doing figuring out ways to enjoy what you're doing seems like such a powerful thing, and that's what I've tried to do in all of the lifestyle changes that I've implemented in my life over the last 7 years. So very well said. For you do have a full-time job. I think you said it's in like the financial related sector or something like that. What my question really is, you've got a job that takes a lot of your concentration and focus. So you probably can relate to this question here. For busy people who don't have hours to train, what is the minimum effective dose of strength training to to stay strong, lean, and metabolically healthy, in your opinion?
So there's multiple ways that you can address training. If you're able to, let's say you don't have too long of a commute in the morning, or I'm not sure what your situation is with kids, but I have one kid, and I've found what works well with my schedule is I like to wake up very early. I usually wake up at 5, a little bit before that, and then I go hit the gym, get my workout in. I come home, my kid's still sleeping. I start making him breakfast and getting ready for the day. Makes it easy to fit in. Now, I understand, like I said, maybe with the commute, this or that, can't always do it then. But if you can find 2 to 3 days a week where you can get in the gym, if you're going to be lifting weights. And I like to focus on a full body training program. The reason being, like, let's say that you miss one or even two workouts during the week because you got sick, or you had to take your kids somewhere, or you had a project or work or whatever reason, and you only got that one workout in, you've still worked your full body. Just look forward to the next week and you keep going. Now, if you can't get into the gym, you can always do body weight workouts. Like there's JT on X. He does a lot of cool body weight workouts, and you can do push-ups and sit-ups, get a resistance band, a few apparatuses, and just do things in the comfort of your own living room to be in great shape. You don't necessarily have to lift weights, but you do want to find some way where you are doing resistance training, because you do want that lean muscle mass on you, because the more lean muscle mass you have, the higher your metabolism is, the better health you're going to be. It's great for longevity. It's great for cognition, etc.
Yeah, and you just mentioned JT. That's JT Tushera, and he's pretty easy to find on X, and he does great videos. He's got a YouTube channel and so forth. A great follow as well. Let's see. We've got oh man, there's so many questions here. Let's see. Well, I'll just throw this one up. This is really a question, but DS on YouTube, carnivore is good for people who don't have hours to cook. That does bring me the thought of, how much time do you spend preparing your meals, Zach? Like, I'm sure you have it down pretty well to a system by now.
Oh yeah.
And and where do you get all this good food? Living in New York City, is it easy, hard? Do you buy in bulk, or is how hard is it for you to put those meals on your plate on a regular basis?
I mean, to address the statement, yeah, I think carnivore is great. You can cook up, meat super fast. Just turn a skillet on high, let it cook, and you're done. And these steak and egg meals I make the eggs real quick, take them off, make the steak. I like my steak rarer than others. People make fun of how rare I like them. That's great. They're not the ones eating them. I am. I'm cooking for myself. But as far as where do I shop? I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't understand what New York City is like at all, and it really amuses me. My building literally has a grocery store connected to it. So if I need something, I can go right there. I can go into the city further in other areas where they got a whole bunch of Whole Foods and different local grocery shops. I get this amazing meat from this regenerative farm down in Arkansas that I really like, called Independence Arc. If you haven't eaten their steak,
they said hello. So I just on the screen, Independence Arc said hello.
everybody should try and support them. They are great. The meat is great tasting. Whenever I get a shipment in, it's like Christmas, but a little bit better. When I drive around a lot, and when I'm going to different states, whether if I'm going out to Pennsylvania or up to the Northeast, I like to see if I can find little farms, or at least these little like farm stores, if I know there's farms that are local, and find nice products there as well. Sometimes I'll order in bulk, not all the time. It's just I have an incredibly convenient setup where I am in New York City, where I'm very blessed that things are always like accessible. Not like some of the memes I've seen online that apparently think somebody like me needs to spend 3 hours on a bus to get a carton of eggs or something. Within 5 minutes I could go downstairs and be back up with a dozen pasture raised eggs. So yeah, there's a lot of resources around here.
Excellent. Actually, my son is he's a little younger than you. He's about 30, but he also lives in Midtown Manhattan. So it's and then you're probably pretty close to Central Park. If you want to get some relaxation, there's all sorts of good stuff to do in the city.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. We gonna try to find a couple more questions here to narrow it down a little bit. Let's see. Oh yeah, I definitely wanted to ask you about. You've gotten, as a result of your steak and egg pictures and some of the more sensationalized posts that you've made. You've been featured in like Newsweek and other publications with some pretty funny things. I was wondering what it's like when you go to work. Clearly, the people in your work life have to know. Some of them have to know about Zack's strength and the online persona. Um, Talk to me about appearing in a Newsweek article where the headline refers to your diet as quote horrifying, and other stuff like that. I mean, it's I just had a little taste of the viral nature of social media over the weekend when Andrew Huberman retweeted one of my posts,
Oh,
and
nice.
it got like 1 million impressions, and I actually had people texting me who just found out about it online, people that I don't even communicate with that often. And I was like, wow. And so I'm thinking about what must it be like when you walk into work the day after the Newsweek article comes out, or other stuff like that.
So I've never brought up my my online persona in a professional setting, but it has been brought up to me a lot. So I remember that whole Newsweek thing. I was lifting, and it was, I don't know, like 6 a.m. and all of a sudden there's a notification on my phone between sets, and it was a journalist from Newsweek asking if he could use my pictures to write about me, and I told him of course. And then the story gets published, and one of my coworkers pings me something about Newsweek, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then other coworkers started, asking me for some fitness and nutrition advice, just out of the blue, without any prior conversation. So obviously they had seen stuff. People started making some steak and egg jokes. Steak and egg jokes come up repeatedly. It's all in good fun, and it's not something I'm trying to like hide from anyone. What's that thing they call, like, 6 degrees of separation? Obviously people are gonna see this Zack strength profile or group of profiles across social media, and bring things up. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And it's cool, when somebody brings it up, because you really understand the power of social media and the reach you can have, and the ability that you have to make a positive impact on the world. So
Oh, awesome. I Let's see. We're doing great on. We've covered a lot of ground here, and I don't need to keep you any longer than you have, but I have a couple more questions, and I'm really enjoying this conversation. You often engage with skeptics on X, pushing back against the mainstream fear of saturated fat, cholesterol, and red meat. What is the biggest myth or the biggest myths that you wish more people understood with respect to nutrition, fitness, or any other lifestyle aspects that are important to you?
I mean, you see a lot of stuff about red meat, butter, eggs causing heart disease, or that, it's going to lead to obesity. Not to toot my own horn, but if you look at me, I don't think you would classify me as obese. Um, Regarding some of the stuff, about heart disease, cholesterol issues, etc. I do empathize with people, because that's what a lot of people were taught growing up, and it's been ingrained into their mind. So why wouldn't they think that way? It's just, now that we have people like myself, people younger than me, people older than me, that have been eating a high fat, low carb diet full of red meat and eggs for decades, and they have the numbers to prove that their health is just fine. And a lot of these people, their health is in the top 1% of the world, that I wish more people would question the old, outdated knowledge, or at least research into it before making snide comments online, that are very, misinformed. And they don't have to take the advice that they read, but perhaps in their research they'll learn a thing or two that'll improve their own health, rather than just parrot old misinformation.
Do you have any suggestions? Let's say, like, when I was 51, I weighed 278 pounds, and I was sort of giving up on the the hope that I would ever regain any real semblance of fitness. And my health was definitely going in the wrong direction. If you were talking to someone like that, like me, 10 years ago, any thoughts, especially given your own transformation, and maybe, even like with, I know you have a new perspective on maybe some of the priorities in life after having, gotten married and having a kid. It's like great to be a college football player, but then you start to realize that there are other important things. So what would you tell me if I was that 51-year-old struggling person about hope, potential, and what someone like that could do with the right changes and the right plan?
That's a great question, and it relates back to what I had said earlier about the mindset of not giving up what you want the most or what you want at the moment. And I'm not sure if you or any listeners out there have ever listened to or read any content by Naval Ravikant or Scott Adams, but they talk about, rather than setting goals, set a system that leads you to success, because setting goals is how you can fail. So when I was at 293 pounds, I didn't have a goal that I was going to get down to X amount. What I told myself was, I'm going to, reapproach my relationship with food, and I'm going to, create a new system for myself that will lead to long-term and sustainable success. So I followed that system, and I had great success with it. It was never, I'm going to get to 215 pounds and that's my goal. Setting up goals is a great way to get frustrated and to fail yourself. So when you're in a situation, if you're feeling hopeless, set a system where you're going to make progress, and don't worry too much about the speed of your progress. As long as you're moving forward, you're moving in the right direction.
Oh, that's awesome advice. Yes. Let's see. You just, I wanted to ask you about if you have a protein target, since that's something that a lot of people ask about. Do you know how much protein you consume in a day? And do you try to get a certain amount every day, or is it more just eating to satiety or whatever?
So I haven't tracked in a while, and there's been periods where I've tracked, where I've had certain goals, which is why I was tracking, or there's been periods where I've just eaten, to satiety, and also tracked just because I was interested in looking at the data. So I'm in one of those non-tracking periods right now, but I did realize I was often eating around 250, even up to 300 grams of protein per day, because I'm eating tons and tons of steak and eggs. You hear the mantra, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And that works well for most people. I mean, most people are going to overshoot the amount of protein they need by doing that, which, I think is why that mantra is out there, because A, it's simple, B, it makes sure that you get the protein that you need to grow your muscles and to feel satiated. But I know for some, heavier individuals, they'll be like, I'm 300 pounds, I'm trying to lose weight, I can't eat 300 grams of protein a day. It doesn't apply to them. Most people are going to be good probably at 200 grams or less, and really what the goal should be is 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. It's just a lot harder to calculate what your lean body mass is. So if you want to put a little extra work into it, find out how much you would weigh without the body fat on, then you can go ahead and say, okay, I weigh 175 pounds of lean body mass, and that'll be my protein target, and not worry about the 1 pound per body weight.
Oh, excellent answer. I was curious about your cardio. Any thoughts on the importance of cardio, and what you actually do in your own situation? Do you run? Do you walk? I know I've seen you. You pushing the stroller around, and
Yeah.
I don't know what your overall thought is on cardio and what you include in your regimen.
Well, cardio is great. Cardio is healthy. I don't like cardio, at least not in the sense of being on the treadmill or, doing sprints, the exercise bike, whatever. I say things online sometimes with my dry humor, I guess, how I don't do cardio and I don't enjoy cardio, but that's not me saying cardio is bad. Growing up as an athlete, I've done maybe more cardio than all of my ex followers combined. So I think I'm good there. But the way that I live such an active lifestyle, often getting 25,000 steps a day, and the intensity and the effort I put in the weight room where I'm getting my heart rate up, I am getting some form of cardio in, playing with my kid at the park, this and that. Not anything intense, not like a sprinter anymore, but I've kept myself in pretty good shape. And if I got invited to play in a pickup game of basketball, or somebody wanted to go run a mile, it's not like I'm out of breath or anything. It's pretty easy. So I'm not baking cardio into my workout routine, but I guess I get some natural form of cardio in just by living my life.
Okay, well, you've provided so much information in a relatively short amount of time, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave our listeners? I see that there's close to 900 people listening right
Oh,
now, and I
wow.
know that those numbers are going to climb once this is available on the iFix Hearts YouTube channel, and it'll also be available for rewatching on X, both my account, Biggest Comeback, and on the iFix Hearts X account, plus on LinkedIn and Instagram. So it's out there, and a lot of people are going to see this. Is there anything else that words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we wrap this up? And then I'm going to ask where the best places for people to find you.
I would like to just encourage everybody to do their own research and their own self-experimentation to find what works best for them, because what works for me may not be the best for you. And the same with a lot of these personalities that you see online. They do something, it works great for them. You don't have to entirely emulate somebody. You can call it a cafeteria plan, so to speak. Pick and choose different things, try different combinations. You'll find something that works, and you'll continue to refine it to live a long, happy life.
Okay, well, when people are looking to interact with you, I think that if I'm not mistaken, your biggest audience is going to be on X at Zack Strength, which is ZACK Strength, and you've got, as I mentioned earlier, over 70,000 followers, and a real engaged feed. So I highly recommend that for anyone who isn't already following. Anywhere else that you'd like to send people?
I'm mainly active on X. The next biggest platforms would be Instagram and Facebook. Same, just look for Zack Strength, and yeah, those are the three platforms I'm biggest on.
And then they can find you also on your website, zackstrength.com.
ZackStrength.com. That's correct.
All right. Well, it's really been a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on, Zack, and I look forward to engaging with you on X in the future.
Chris, it was truly an honor, and I can't wait to see the next picture of a bunless burger. Yours is the best.
Okay, great. I will talk to you later. I hope everybody out there is having a great week.
Have a good one.